Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the award-winning Tipoff 2024-2025. Ron Poniewasz, joined by Mr. Larry Kelly, a member of the Luxembourg Garbett Kelly and George law firm, our sponsor, and a member of the Newcastle High boys basketball team coaching staff, a varsity assistant, and he's also an assistant coach for the Penn State Shenango, that is, baseball team. Larry Kelly, thank you for joining us, and welcome aboard again.
Well, thank you, Ronnie. But look, it's 10:15 on Monday night. It's a little past my bedtime. You understand? Normally by this time, I'm tucked into bed, ready to go to sleep. But I stayed up because, I wanted to make sure that we got our program in. It's the best time of the year. It's playoff hoops, basketball, the tournament. And, I'm fired up and ready to go. I don't know about you.
Well, first of all, blame it on 88 basketball teams making the playoffs. That's number one. And number two, last week you wanted to shoot this at like 10:15, 10:30. So what are we talking about?
I make exceptions for the Newcastle News. And by the way, are you in your new building right now?
Nope, we're still here, 27 North Mercer.
Okay. All right. I thought Friday was the last day in the old building.
Yeah, it's our 747th anniversary of our last week here. So,
listen, if I were czar of the world, and that would be dangerous, you would be staying at 27 North Mercer Street, because that's the Newcastle News.
Go out and win a lottery. Help us out, Larry.
Yeah.
All right. This week we're going to talk about Athlete of the Week. We'll tell you about two athletes of the week. We'll dive into this week's and then rehash last week's as well. Our talking points, Larry Kelly will prime you for the Newcastle High boys basketball team in the Red Hurricane Minute, the Newcastle's first round opponent, which has been official tonight. We just learned about it a little bit ago, actually.
Who is it, Ronnie? I didn't hear it.
Butler. They beat North Hills comfortably. I didn't write the score down or log it in my memory bank, but they did. They did beat North Hills. And we'll talk a little bit about the WPIAL and the playoffs and things that I'm not happy with the WPIAL, which is same.
What else is new?
Put the needle on the record. And we'll close up the Super Bowl 59, in good guy, bad guy, and rehash Philadelphia's win over Kansas City.
Just make sure the audience knows that in good guy, bad guy sports, I'm the good guy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, hey, they can believe what they want to believe. Like what they want to like, actually.
Okay.
All right. So, athlete of the week. First off, this week's athlete of the week: Elwood City Lincoln's Delaney Sturgeon, a 5'9" senior forward. Delaney Sturgeon had 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 blocks in a 49-41 win over Seton LaSalle in the first round of the playoffs last week. She came to play, Larry. That was a big win for 12th seeded Elwood City over 5th seeded, I believe it was, Seton LaSalle.
Anytime a public school can beat one of the Catholics, that's saying something. Seton LaSalle is loaded every year. As you might recall, and as I certainly know, that was the team that we, the Shenango Wildcats, beat in the WPIAL championship when they had 5 Division I baseball players on the team. Mm-hmm. And so when you put up 28 points, 8 rebounds, 5 blocks, almost a triple-double against a Seton LaSalle team, you're very deserving of Athlete of the Week. That's a big-time performance. And that game was probably played at Seton LaSalle, if I'm not mistaken, because normally the higher seed gets the first game at home in the WPIAL playoffs.
Well, their gym must not have complied to regulations, because that game was played in the first game of a doubleheader at Chartiers Valley High School.
Okay, well, neutral court then, but still, playing at a gym other than your own, it makes it tough. Playing a higher seed, it's a tough sled. But this young lady had a great game. That's an outstanding game against a very good team in the playoffs when it's one and done. Congrats to her and Elwood City, the Wolverines.
11 of 22 from the floor, 10 of 17 from inside the arc for Delaney Sturgeon, and that was Elwood City's first girls basketball playoff win since, any guess?
No. It's been a while.
1995.
Wow. Okay. Wow. It's been a long time. Uh, well, they earned their way in, and it's a big win. It's a big win for the program. It wasn't so long ago, the Elwood City boys, as a high seed, maybe even a 12 seed, won the WPIAL championship. And that was only a few years ago. So it can be done.
Mm-hmm. Number 12, Elwood City Lincoln now is 14-8 on the season. They play Keystone Oaks, the number 4 seed, and they are 19-2. That game will be 6 p.m. on Wednesday night at North Allegheny. A little bit on Keystone Oaks. They lost to Seton LaSalle 60-57 in the first game as section rivals. They defeated Seton LaSalle in the second game 46-42. So they split the season series. So do with that what you will.
Yeah, absolutely. That means that Lincoln High School can win. These are two very similar teams. Whatever game plan they put together to beat Seton LaSalle, I would use the same one. If it isn't broken, don't fix it. And if they're going to win, Delaney Sturgeon has to have another big game, another 28-8-5, and there's a pretty good chance the Wolverines will be moving on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're a very senior-laden basketball team, Elwood City. You got Delaney Sturgeon, her sister Elsie Sturgeon, Kayla Jones, who just went over 1,000 points about a week or two ago, and Caitlin Kreitzer. A lot of people will remember Caitlin Kreitzer from the football team for all those extra points that she booted, and very good football player.
Right. And, we've talked about this a lot, seniors, especially in playoff basketball, seem to do very well. That experience comes to play.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and we are going to turn it over to Larry Kelly for the second athlete of the week that we want to talk about. The one previous week, Joe Campoli of Shenango High School.
Oh, yeah. Listen, Joe Campoli's a dog. And and when you call somebody a dog, that's a compliment in athletics. I had him as a ninth grader on my baseball team. And, he's one of those guys that as a ninth and 10th grader had to come in and pitch really big games for us. Mm-hmm. And, the thing I loved most about him was his toughness, his mental toughness, one of the mentally tougher kids I've ever coached. But there's a reason for that. His grandfather, Sam Campoli, graduated from me at Newcastle High School and was one of the most mentally tough and physically tough players that I had ever known. He was a two-sport star, played basketball at Newcastle, went to the University of Miami on a football scholarship, was an all-conference offensive and defensive lineman. So the fact that Joey Campoli has this kind of success does not surprise me. And last week, when he was Athlete of the Week, he put up 60 points in 2 games, 20 points against Western Beaver in a 79-62 win, and 40 points against Rochester in a 77-49 win. And to put up 40 points in a high school basketball game is a feat, Ronnie. It's not easy to do. But Joey's a complete player, tough kid, mentally tough, physically tough. He's going to have a great year on the mound for the Shenango Wildcats this year in his senior year. So I congratulate Joey, and I congratulate his grandfather, Sam Campoli. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
And Shenango had its season end tonight. Shenango's 10 seed lost to Chartiers Houston on the road 55-35. And Shenango was down 23-12 at the half. They just couldn't get going. They were almost like they were in quicksand most of the game, if not the whole game.
Yeah, they were playing that game on the road, and playing in somebody else's gym, as we've spoken so many times, is very, very difficult. But overall, they had a good season under first-year head coach Brian Ches, and Joey Campoli was a big reason why that happened.
Yeah, Brian Ches did a great job as a first-year coach for Shenango, no doubt. So Athlete of the Week this week is Delaney Sturgeon from Elwood City, Lincoln. Last week, recapping, was Joe Campoli from Shenango High School. That's our Athlete of the Week segment. Join us back here next on our Talking Points segment as Larry tells you all about the Newcastle Red Hurricane in the Red Hurricane Minute as the team gets ready to play its first round playoff game. We'll talk more about that coming up next on Tip Off.
We all know there's an advantage to being the home team, to playing at home. And at LGKG, we have been your home team for personal injury cases involving automobile accidents and workers' compensation claims for over 90 years. At LGKG, over 10,000 clients have trusted us to represent them. We know how to present your case to a Western Pennsylvania jury. We know what makes them tick. We know how to win.
Okay, we're back with you here on Tip Off, and this is Larry Kelly's star portion of the program where he tells you about the Red Hurricane Minute.
It's been a long time since anybody's called me a star in anything, but I'm always happy to talk about Red Hurricane basketball. And look, Ronnie, as we're going into the playoffs, at least in my view, we're playing our best basketball of the year. And we had a real test against Aliquippa. You know, I've been coaching at Newcastle since 2010, and I can't remember too many times that we were down 16 points in a basketball game. And I believe we were down 16 points in the second half of that game. But as Coach Bellundo often says, you know, there's going to be runs both ways. And, you know, the other team's going to make a run and we're going to make a run, and you can't lose your composure. You got to stay mentally tough and laser focused. And that's what we did in that game. It was such an impressive comeback against a really, really good game. And I think it spoke volumes about how far we've come as a team, our ability to execute in crunch time, our mental toughness, you know, when the chips are down. And it was all evident in that game. We came back to beat them by 1 point. Roughly Bellundo hit a 3-point shot to put us up by 2 with, I think, less than 30 seconds to go in the game. It was the Steph Curry play. It was great execution on offense. And that play was set up in large part by a screen that Quaylon Davis set. You know, we talk about execution all the time and the ability to execute in crunch time. And we had the play set up and it was called from the sideline. But the key to that play is setting a good screen, a good down screen to give Ralphie a look. Quaylon Davis, he just pulverized this kid from Aliquippa. Ralphie had a look. He got it off quick. And the moment it left his hands, if you look at the film, I don't get up off that bench very often, but I knew that one was in, and I was standing up with my hands up. So we're playing our best basketball of the year. Shout out to 3 all-conference players, first-team all-conference, Ralphie Bellundo, Damian Harrison, Kai Cox, a 9th grader. I believe it's the first time a 9th grader at Newcastle has made first-team all-conference. Damian Harrison is playing his best basketball of the year. Last week or 2 weeks ago, Ronnie, in a 3-game stretch, Damian Harrison had 50 points and 50 rebounds in a 3-game stretch. You know, it's one thing to get 50 points. That's a lot easier to do than get 50 rebounds. This young man's game was just elevated recently, and he's playing his best basketball of the year. And you could probably check this out. I can't remember the last time we had 3 first-team all-conference players in the same year. You could probably look at that. I'm sure it's probably happened, but it's been a while, and I can't remember the last time that happened. So that's a credit to how we've developed. Thursday's a big game. We got Butler for the 3rd time at home. Butler's a good basketball team. You know, we took care of them at home last time, but it was a 1-possession game at Butler where we scored with less than a second to go in the game to win the game. So they're well coached. They're tough. They're physical. As we say often, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a row. It's hard because the games tend to get closer each time you play them because of the familiarity between the 2 teams. But we're playing our best basketball of the year. Butler better be ready if they think they're going to come into the field house and beat us, because we're really playing well. And, you know, we talk about it all the time. Good teams and good coaches, they don't want to be playing their best basketball in December and in January, early January, and we weren't. And, you know, I was critical of our team, our ability to execute offensively and defensively. But, man, we're playing our best basketball of the year right now when it counts the most. Our offensive and defensive execution has been exquisite, and our toughness has always been there, and our kids have grown. And that game against Aliquippa was a really, really important game for us to show our mettle and to show how much we've grown over the past probably 3 or 4 weeks of the season. We're ready to go.
Okay, couple areas for you. Malik Hooker would not have been a first team freshman.
I don't believe he was, Ronnie. He wasn't a starter as a ninth grader.
How about Marcus Hooker?
I don't believe he was. He was a starter as a ninth grader, but I don't believe he was first team all conference. I don't believe it. You could check it out, but I don't believe it. I think Kai Cox may be the first, and that's quite an accomplishment in 6A. And that young man has played really well all season.
All right. The previous show, I asked you for an MVP, and you put on your Franco Harris jersey and kind of stepped out of bounds and lived to talk on the podcast for another day. I'll answer that for you. I think it's Damian Harrison. I think he's your MVP, at least to this point. Who knows how the rest of the season plays out, WPIAL playoffs and state playoffs, but I will answer that. I think it's Damian Harrison.
The beauty of our team, it's somebody different every game. That's why it's so hard to pick an MVP. It's somebody different. If you had to pick an MVP against Aliquippa, it was Ralphie Belando. He was our leading scorer and hit that big three at the end of the game. If you had to go back to 3 games before that, it was Damian Harrison, 50 points and 50 rebounds in 3 games. If you went back to the 3 games before that, it was probably Kai Cox, who's been instrumental in our offensive execution, both creating for himself and others. So that's why it'd be so difficult to pick an MVP. I haven't seen the votes of the all-conference team. Have you? Who got the most votes of those 3?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen anything, and we probably won't until they're released. Well,
somebody released them. Maybe this is the Trib Reviews all-conference team, but it's been all over Facebook that those 3 young men were first-team all-conference, and I might say well-deserved.
The Newcastle is 19-3 currently as we sit here late Monday night, as Larry pointed out in the Athlete of the Week segment. Newcastle has won 7 in a row, and Thursday they play Butler at the Fieldhouse after Butler took care of business against North Hills. Larry, I almost hate to say, can you be objective? But from our perspective, this is just a terrible, terrible draw for Newcastle because, first off, they lost once to North Hills. And if they would have been playing North Hills has the secret sauce to beat Newcastle. They beat you head to head. However, it's not North Hills. Butler took care of North Hills, but yet Butler hung right in there with Newcastle and lost on a buzzer beater at Butler, as you mentioned. And Newcastle took care of business against Butler at the Fieldhouse. And where's this game going to be Thursday? It's going to be at the Fieldhouse. So naturally, Newcastle is the odds-on favorite, probably a good close to double digits or better. Now, the next game they play, more than likely, Imani Christian. From my standpoint, good luck. Because, Imani Christian is no joke. They're, by rights, they're in terms of classification, they're playing as high up as they can go. They're probably, a 1A or a 2A school, but still, good luck.
Well, it's a Pittsburgh AAU team, is what it is. It's a Pittsburgh AAU team. They go around and recruit some of the best players in Pittsburgh, and they're on their team. But first of all, I don't think we're beating Butler by double digits again. Third time around, it's going to be a closer game. But playing at home is a big advantage, and I expect us to be successful and win the game. And I don't know where that Imani Christian game will be. It might be at North Allegheny. We play very well there, and they're good. Don't get me wrong. And they got Division I basketball players on their team too. But I'll say the same thing I said when I was the head coach at Shenango High School, and we were playing Seton Hall. It was almost like Seton Hall we were playing. We're going to be there. We're going to show up. If somebody thinks we're not showing up, the Red Hurricane isn't showing up, you're mistaken. We're going to be there. And just like, when we beat Seton LaSalle, we're going to come to play. We'll be there. And we expect to win. That's who we are. We're Newcastle. We don't go into any game hoping to win. We go into games expecting to win. And it's just that's what our culture is. That has a lot to do with Coach Polando has instilled in these guys, and we'll be ready. But one game at a time. We got Butler on Thursday, and that won't be easy.
Right. Well, that's in a roundabout way, Larry Kelly telling you, quote unquote, Big East baseball is no joke.
Well, again, Seton LaSalle, they were almost like Seton Hall. They were pretty good that year.
Right.
But in Amani Christian, it's the same thing. And if we get past them, we might have to look at Upper St. Clair, who has a couple kids, I understand, that are really good players, about 6'8" each. But the game isn't about height anymore. If you can rebound your own end, and we do. Our guys bang. We talked about Quaylen Davis. We talked about Jaden Schaefer. We talked about Damian Harris. These guys all, Ralphie Belendo rebounds, and he's probably the smallest kid on the court. Kai Cox rebounds. Our guys, we bang the boards. If we can rebound our own end, it doesn't matter how big the other team is. But you can't let them shoot, miss, shoot, miss, shoot, miss. But we do a pretty good job on the boards.
Okay. That is our Red Hurricane Minute. And now we're going to transition right on into a couple other secondary topics that are related to the WPIAL. And we can kind of link this to Newcastle as well, kind of be an extension of the Red Hurricane Minute. Newcastle plays Thursday against Butler, which we know. It's going to be at the Fieldhouse, which we know. We're sitting here on Monday. TBA. What are you doing, WPIAL, that you can't tell us that it's 7 p.m.? Is there a game at the Fieldhouse in front of Newcastle? What's the secret? It's not a government secret. This isn't an FBI thing. Tell us it's 7 p.m. Just tell us it's 7 p.m. What's the secret?
I don't agree with you often, but I do agree with you on this one. There's no reason why. I doubt very seriously there'll be a game before us, because aren't the women playing on alternate nights and then us? Are the girls, like, if Neshannock's playing Thursday night, there may be a chance they would play at the Fieldhouse before our game. But we know they got a home game, don't they? So I agree with you. I think that, I'm of the feeling, unless there's Neshannock, I was talking about Neshannock girls. Do Neshannock boys play on Thursday?
Well, Monday's winners, boys and girls from the boys and girls field, play Thursday.
Okay.
So you could have teams now. Neshannock boys are a 4 seed, I believe it is, and Northgate's a 5. I doubt that they put Neshannock and Northgate at the Fieldhouse, but I bet it's possible.
Well, they might. I mean, they might. It wouldn't surprise me if they did that. And if they did that, then you might have a 6:30, 8:30 start or something like that. So, I'll give them a pass if indeed they were waiting to see who plays and where they play. The Fieldhouse is a very attractive venue for playoff basketball games, and the place would be packed if you had Newcastle and Neshannock playing at the same site. Somebody reminded me the other day, my dear friend Ricky Gabriel, when we played the Western Final when I was at Shenango High School, Newcastle played before us, and Ricky said there were 3,500 people paid attendance at Neshannock High School's field to watch that doubleheader. So, if Neshannock boys are playing at the Fieldhouse and we're playing after them, it'll be a big crowd.
I believe I was there for that, at least one of those games, if not both of them. I remember, I think you might have come up to the press box for a little while and watched Newcastle, and while you were waiting for your game. I think I remember that.
Right. And Ricky Gabriel was the game manager, and I saw him in the airport because I had a conference that I had to be at, and he told me that there were 3,500 people that paid to get in, and he said there was another 500 that snuck in through the woods to watch the games. I don't know that there was ever a better night for high school baseball in Lawrence County than that night. You had Newcastle and Shenango playing. Both of us won. Both of us went to the state. It was a great night for baseball in Newcastle, Lawrence County.
Yeah, I talked to Mark Stanley tonight when he called in his box score. Union boys won 70-49 over Fort Cherry, and I wanted to because I don't have any idea. I haven't seen this written anywhere, so I wasn't sure what the procedure was. But I asked them how they're treating the teams that lose. Is it basically, are you waiting around to see how you get pulled in? Are you waiting around saying, well, we lost to this team, well, let's root for this team? Or are we actually playing games? The playback, I believe, is what it is called, and he did say that that's going to be the playback. So right now, as Union sits here, Union plays Greensburg Central Catholic on Thursday. Union's the 8th seed, and Greensburg Central Catholic is the 1 seed. Greensburg Central Catholic eliminated Laurel tonight, and he said at very worst, Union has 4 games remaining this year. They're playing Thursday, and if they lose Thursday, they have 2 games in like consolation type games in the WPIAL, and then naturally the first round of the state playoffs. So at minimum, Union has 4 games left. I guess we'll tie it in. There's too many expletive teams making the state playoffs. There just is. I don't have too much to say about 6A boys. There's 4. However, the bracket is what? 11, looks like 11 teams. 7 teams in 3A boys. Give me a break. There's 8 teams in WPIL 2A boys. Give me a personal break. There's 6 teams in the 1A girls. Give me a break. There's 7 teams in 2A. It's nonsense. It's basically putting your arm around somebody and saying, we like you. You're our buddy. You're okay with us. How would you like to play more basketball? Even though you lost, how would you like to play more basketball?
Yeah, it never used to be that way. I don't know why it's changed because, truth be told, those first round games in the state playoffs oftentimes are blowouts. Now, it wasn't always that way. It wasn't. I remember at Newcastle, we win the WPIAL championship, and we got to play the second seeded team from Erie, from District 7. And that was a good basketball game. Those games were tough. And that was always the biggest trap game where you're playing the WPIAL championship game, maybe at the Peterson Event Center, and there's 5,000-6,000 people there. And then you're playing the first round of the state playoff in a high school gym, and there's 500 or 600. So, but now it's, they're letting, I'm agreeing with you again, which is unusual. Twice in the same podcast, they're letting too many teams, and I think there's just too many. I agree with you. And that's only on this side of the bracket. Then you have the east side of the bracket doing the same thing. So it's I don't know the answer, other than maybe they do want to create more opportunity for teams to get into the playoffs, or maybe they just want to create more opportunity to make more money.
Yeah.
Could be one, could be the other, it could be both.
We all know there's an advantage to playing at home, to being the home team. At LGKG, we've been your home team personal injury attorneys for auto accident and workers' compensation cases for over 90 years. We know what works and how to win. We have all the credentials. At LGKG, we don't take every case. We handpick our clients so that we can give you the attention you deserve.
You can't lose your composure. You got to stay mentally tough and laser focused. And that's what we did in that game.